All right. Well, I'll call this meeting to order. This is the Town of Millis Finance Committee meeting of Wednesday, October 21st. I'm Jody Garzon, the chair, and we have several members here with us tonight. Peter Berube, Craig Schultz, Katie Tu. We have Sean Power, Kathy McGinnis, and Doug Riley. And we also have invited guests, Chief Barrett. We have Mike Gazinski and Carol Johnston as well. We may have other members join us as we go along, but our meeting tonight is we're gonna hear from Chief Barrett, and then we're gonna discuss the November town meeting warrant, the changes that were recently made, and then make our recommendations and then approve the minutes of our last meeting, and that should be it. So I'm gonna hand things over to Chief Barrett to update us on the SAFER grant.
Great, thank you so much. Thanks for having me tonight. So the SAFER grant, it's been something that we've been striving for probably 3 years. And this year with the encouragement of the federal government, due to COVID and excess funds, they were really pushing for people to apply for the grant. We applied for it. It was a long process, and I'm very happy to say that we received it in the first round, which is, pretty impressive. We're really happy with that. And we received funding for 4 firefighters for 3 years at a cost of $978,324. And this year, there's usually an incremental match that the town has over the 3 years. And with this grant, the federal government has waived any town requirement to contribute to the salaries for those 4 firefighters. I know there's always the concern about, that's great, how do we pay for it at the end? So I've done a ambulance revenue projection sheet that you all should have in front of you. And the big one is, if we look at 2019 to 2020, again, for a long time, we've been talking about, investing in the fire department, going ALS. We've done that. It's been very successful. And we were able to show that in ambulance revenue receipts from 2019 to 2020. You can see we had a pretty big jump of about 51% increase. We were $161,000 over last year. So with those projections, I try to build it out the 3 years. I used a modest 10% increase in ambulance revenue collections. Before ALS, we were averaging anywhere between 10 and 12%. With ALS and increased services, responses, I think a 10% increase was moderate. So each year, the town collects ambulance revenue. A portion of it is taken to already pay for some of the firefighters. The town approves that for appropriation at town meeting. And we're left with a balance that's carried over to the following year. So if you're following it along, if you look at 2019, we ended with $381,000. That carries over, plus the collections, leaves us with an available balance of about $858,000. Again, we transfer money out to cover some of the costs for the salaries for firefighters and some additional expenses, and we have the leftover. So we continue down that track where we have carryover from the year before, collections from the current year, and then deductions to town meeting and any of the expenses. So for 2021, I put in there what we're projected to do. The collections that would be up to date, about $525,000, puts us just over that $1 million mark. We pull out the transfer on average, what we've been over in the last couple of years, plus the request that we had for to prepare for and fund the potential for overtime cost, uniforms, radios, first year costs that it takes to have those firefighters come on board. The reason we bring in that overtime is, again, we're always trying to maintain that, control that. Craig brings it up a lot. It's just the one thing that's really hard to control or bank on is we just never know what overtime is going to be, shift coverage. Currently we have 4 members who are out on injury that we're covering. This grant has helped us right now because we've hired 3. They're filling spots right now that we don't have to pay overtime for. And additionally, again, we'll use last week's storm or 2 weeks ago, the storm. All that time that the firefighters are here, our full-time members who are coming back, it's overtime. So it's hard to say we're going to reduce. We're going to do things to try to cut down on, how much callback we do. With 4 firefighters, we can do a lot more. And we won't need to rely on calling back as many as we currently do. Additionally, with that, another thing that the town's funded and we're proud of is the funding of training members of our department to become paramedics. And the last 2 that we weren't able to hire, but funded for them to go to paramedic school through this grant, we were actually able to hire them and get them on full-time onto our staff. So if we bring it all the way out to the end, the first year that we would take over, the town would assume full cost of the 4 firefighters. Again, with a moderate projection, I believe, what we're seeing in calls, revenues, town growth, projects that are coming online within these 3 years. I just saw the planning board the other night, Dover Road project that we're concerned about responses to is coming online, and they're hoping to start construction in February or March as they presented to the planning board. So with all those coming into play, still having a modest projection, I believe at the end, the ambulance revenue itself will be able to fund these 4 positions. And with that, I guess I would take any questions.
Thanks, Chief. I think, thank you for all the information you've provided. I think as we head into our next budget year, so like in January, if you could help put together kind of a metric that would track the amount of calls that you've had and the increase and versus the staffing levels that you've had, so we could see how those 2 track together.
Sure.
Because it can be hard to remember these things from year to year.
Yeah. And again, I think, one of the things that we kept the second ambulance because we could see the increase in multiple medical calls. And I think I said it at our budget, presentation, if we had 3 ambulances at this point, I would probably be rolling all 3. We do a really good job of staffing all of our stuff. We're providing a lot of mutual aid. We're providing more out than we're taking in, which means the revenue stays here in Millis.
Yeah, thank you. Other questions? Pete?
Thanks, Jody. Chief, and I'm sorry if I missed this in your budget presentation a couple weeks ago, but could you tell us or tell me what percentage of those ALS calls are mutual aid? Is there a general percentage that you can tell us of? And the reason I'm asking is because I'm wondering if there are those other towns are also pursuing their ALS capability, and does that mean that the projections go up for a while and then have the potential to go back down in out years?
That's a great question. We're not providing a percentage that we rely on. I would probably say, if I had to guess, I would probably put it in, maybe in the 5% range, maybe of calls. It could even be lower. I mean, we're doing a lot, but a lot of it is homegrown. To tell you about other towns, Town of Medway for grant, they're trying to do the same. But a lot of the projects we haven't coming on, like Dover Road, Medway also has, and some of theirs are a little further ahead than ours. So they're starting to prepare for call volume they won't be able to handle. They have a hard time handling their call volume now. The town of Medfield, unfortunately, is struggling with their ALS, and we do provide ALS to them, probably the most. But I could get a hard number if you'd like that.
No, that's okay. Again, I'm just trying to look for the projection. I mean, the revenue is great and the receipts are fantastic. Just curious, I don't think any of us wants to bank on those being there if
Right.
you can see on the horizon that it could go back down.
Right.
Thank you.
Other questions? Well, I don't see anyone. This is, I mean, it's great that you're able to get this grant, that it doesn't cost us anything for 4 years, or it's not projected to. And that's during those 4 years, hopefully we'll have more projects come online. And so it tracks kind of perfectly with how we're growing and the ways that we're growing as a town. Craig, did you have a question?
No, I just wanted to comment. I wasn't opposed to it a few weeks ago. I asked about it. I just hadn't heard about it, and I just wanted to see the numbers. The numbers look like they make perfect sense. And as far as overtime goes, I just don't like counting on savings from overtime.
Right.
I never see that we ever have savings from overtime.
Right.
I understand it's necessary in your line of work and police line of work, especially in DPW.
Yeah.
But I just don't think you can count on it as a savings. But seeing that you're not even banking on that as being a real, balance, budget balancer for this.
Yeah.
The excess revenues from the ambulance runs make tons of sense. This looks like a good move. Will it leave enough in the fund to buy a new ambulance when it's time to purchase a new ambulance? It looks like it will.
I love that. I love that question. I've been talking with Carol because initially, before I did this, believe me, when we did these projections, I was excited to see them. And before this, I had asked Carol if it was a possibility of doing some sort of enterprise account that we would take some of the ambulance revenue, $60,000 a year, and put it in there, and after the next ambulance probably have enough to pay for it that we don't have to go to the residents for. And I know Carol had reached out to DOR to see if that was something that was even allowed.
Yeah, we used to just save ambulance revenue to pay for an ambulance, not an enterprise. For just when we had that, however much an ambulance cost surplus, we'd buy an ambulance.
Yeah.
So
believe me, my goal, if we could accomplish that, I think that would be that'd be really good.
Yeah, it looks like a great move all the way around.
Yeah. Other questions before we let the chief go?
Hey, I have a quick follow-up. Chief, I know in past years you've asked for an administrative assistant. I can't remember where that's left. I thought maybe you were splitting it with the police department. Is that the case?
It is, yep.
And what, given that all this ALS activity is happening, what's the administrative burden that's created by this, if any?
So when I did my budget presentation, I having Tracy for the 20 hours that we have, it's freed up time for me to do projects like this. The amount of hours that we spent on this grant was a lot, and I think it would have been tough if I didn't have, her to handle a lot of the stuff. Additionally, the ALS component of fire-based EMS is it's a lot. So, also in the budget, we put in for an EMS coordinator. He's a full-time firefighter. He does it while he's on shift. But just having those two positions, we've really been able to, maximize what we do here and make sure that we're providing and getting as much information as well as handling all the increased ALS requirements. We had, everybody saw that Norwood Hospital had a major flooding, and that just threw a wrench into it because that was our medical control. But with all three of us working, we were able to secure 3 other medical controls from 3 hospitals in the area, continue working without missing a beat. And it was great to have those 2 to kind of rely on.
Thanks, Chief.
Any other questions before we let the chief go? All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us and
Thanks so much.
sharing
Have a
good
good
news. Great. So next up is discussion of the November town meeting warrant, and as it stands now and changes. So Mike, you want to take the floor?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. So as a follow-up to the tri-board meeting, some changes have been made, mostly to Article 2 and Article 7. So I'll just briefly run through those, and then if you want, Carol can discuss the funding aspect of it. I know a breakdown of that was sent out, a spreadsheet. And I believe everyone should have the updated warrant, and then the updated motions were just sent out later, later this afternoon. I don't know if everyone's received those, but so just to briefly go through that. Article 2, we moved the $10,000 for the Recreation Department expenses actually from outside the chart as it was presented to inside the chart. We had a reduction of the IT administration from 35,000 to 20,000, and again moved that from outside to inside the chart. The 15,000 for the salary and wage survey in Article 7. Article 7 was eliminated, and that 15,000 was moved to selectmen expenses inside the chart. And then education salaries was increased from $173,132 to $256,704 rounding, and that's in line with the 65-35. Those are the basic changes to the warrant since you last met. I'd be happy to answer any questions about that. What we tried to do there is do a rebalance based on the tri-board meeting that was held last week. So I don't know if Carol, if you want to touch upon that chart and just talk briefly about the funding, and then we can certainly take questions.
Sure. The only changes like mentioned is that we added two more columns onto the item that'll be placed in the warrant, and it was just to be sure to differentiate between what we're asking to restore the staff back as of December 1st, that the $257,000 level, and then the additional salaries and expenses that were asked for at the tri-board. The funding on that, the $386,000 will come out of what we believe to be the revenue increases that we've seen, and we're pretty sure that it will come through. As I mentioned last week, the new growth number is significant, so we shouldn't have any issue. So it'll be $386,000 coming out of raise and appropriate, and the balance of Article 2, because that's the one that has the revolving in there for the firefighter. That will come out of the ambulance revolving fund, as well as the funding for the marijuana impact fund for the police officer will come out of the free cash.
And this still keeps the tree trimming as Article 7. Yeah, I see it there. I just had to skip
Yes.
ahead.
Yes.
That's correct.
Yeah. I think that was the intent of what we talked about at the meeting, or what I was talking about, and I think that's great. I think it's where it needs to be.
Yes, the select board after that meeting discussed it at their meeting, and they decided to go ahead with the proposals put forward at the tri-board meeting.
That was a productive meeting. It was long, but I'm glad it made headway and it had a resolution. I don't like long meetings that have no resolution.
Madam Chair, if I might, Kathy McInnes.
Yes, go ahead.
I heard last week at the meeting that the IT money, Mr. Kaczynski, was going to be used for also for the schools, for the cybersecurity. Can I confirm that?
It's really it's a townwide exercise, but it'd be hard to delve into it to that level. I would say that we're looking at this right now as a municipal expense, not a school expense. Although I do think that there'll be some benefit overall, since including the schools, since some of that cybersecurity is part of the Munis system, which the school is a part of. But we're putting it in here basically just as a municipal expense.
So the school isn't responsible for any of the funds?
Not on this particular item, no.
Okay. And I believe, Madam Chair, I asked last week or a week before about the COVID reimbursements to both the school was a couple of recently. And then quite a while back, I asked for information about the COVID reimbursement to the town. And unless someone on the finance committee has received it and not shared it, I was wondering if that's been prepared and forwarded to the finance committee.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Carol.
What I was going to say is we do have information. We had to do a filing with the state for the March 1st through June 30th. We do have that filing we can certainly send to you. The next filing for the next period of time is July 1st through September 30th, and that's due back to the state by November 13th. So we could certainly send out that documentation if you want it. It's just itemized. We, in the period between March 1st and June 30th, we had only spent $37,000 of the money, and $36,000 of that we're going to be looking for reimbursement from FEMA. So we currently have a large balance as of June 30th, but again, we're preparing the information for September 30th. So around the middle of November, if you're interested, we can certainly send you this documentation. Mike is the one who actually has to upload it into the system for the state. So I prepare it, and but we can make it available as soon after he sends it in. We will just, so everyone is aware, I was notified by the auditors that because of the amount of money that we've received from the CARES grant, it puts us into a federal audit standard. So I'm waiting to hear back whether or not we'll have to have that additional audit for FY20, but it looks like we'll definitely have to have it for FY21. The threshold for a federal award audit is $750,000. And between what the school received this year, we received, it amounted to 1.2 million, but we had only spent 400,000 of that money. So as I said, I'm just waiting back to hear back from the auditors whether we have to have the federal audit this year as well as next year, but for certain we'll have to have it next year.
Madam Chair, thank you, Ms. Carroll. I would just like to receive whatever you have. I was just to educate myself. I was under the impression that the town and the school send in what they needed and what it cost them for COVID relief, and then the state sends money out in response to the need. And I didn't know if there's an itemization received from the state that says, okay, you asked for this and this is what we're giving.
What actually?
That's why if I had something like that to look at, I would not be asking you now.
Oh, that's okay. So what actually happened for the CARES Act is they, in the first round, they asked us to submit our request of whatever we felt we would need for the duration. We submitted our plan as for the whole year. I'm pretty certain people have that document of what made up the 729,000 that we requested. We did receive all of the funding in the first round, so we do have that money here in the town. We have the second round of funding that you probably have seen or heard people talk about. We've already gotten all of it that we'll get through the CARES Act, so there's no reason for us to try to put anything through again. What happens with the state is that you spend down the funds that you have. If we have, we'll have to send it back. There's no guarantee that when we do end up with a federal audit, that they won't determine some of the expenses that we have applied for it aren't eligible. And so if we spent all of our money, then we would owe money back. Or if we have not spent all of it, we would owe money back, be able to send the money back. But we're only spending it as the items come through that are definitely COVID-19 related. Mike Kaczynski can assure you that every time I'm asked, it's if you don't have documentation that would suffice for a federal audit to back up your request, then it's not COVID eligible.
I'll back that up.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I did not receive whatever Ms. Carroll said that we should have received already. So can Ms. Deirdre make sure that I get a copy of that?
I'll make sure I send Deirdre. If she doesn't, I'm fairly certain because when we applied, I know that it went out to, I believe the select board at any rate, and I thought the finance committee had it. This was quite
Yeah,
some.
this was back in May and June, so this was a while ago.
It was quite a while
So-
ago.
Yeah, but we'll make sure to get that out by email to everyone, to make sure everyone has that. And again, it's really a living, moving document right now as far as what's actually being spent. We're responding to issues. We're purchasing items as needed. There are items coming up that need to be addressed that are COVID related that weren't anticipated, which is fine because we have flexibility within the grant to make those changes as time goes on. But again, we have the full $729,000 that was sent to us from the federal government through the state. And, those funds are being spent as needed and where appropriate. And we are tracking those. And we have until December 30th to make good use of those funds unless Congress changes the rules surrounding those. So we will, as Carol said, once we submit that package in November, we can give that out, but we can also send out again the breakdown of the grant application to show where the intended funds, the intended uses of those funds would be.
Thanks a lot.
Other questions on this Article 2?
Just, Carol, the 729 that the town applied for, is there anything in there that's also going to the school that would be, because I know they have 243,000 that is detailed from their application for a specific grant. Is that part of the 729 or is that a completely separate amount?
That's completely separate. Those are additional funds.
So that's strictly for the school. They get the money and they submit their receipts and say the same process, basically.
That's correct. That was a startup grant to get them back in operation within the COVID environment. And that's geared straight towards the schools. And that was done throughout the different schools in the country. And that is specified for the reopening of the schools. So that's separate from the 729,000.
Okay.
It's still FEMA money, so it's still part of the federal award audit that we would have to, it's all encompassing, but it is separate in addition to what we already got.
And Madam Chair, there was no staffing requests in what the school had asked for. I'm not seeing what they received. I don't know if we know, but
In the 729,000.
no, not there. The school money, the 200 something.
43.
Right, so the 243,000, we had talked yesterday with the school, and there are items that we're going to put under that grant that can go under the CARES Act that we have, that will allow them for more staffing through that grant. They're going to make an amendment to the grant committee at DESE, which is allowable, and they are allowed to put staffing on that one.
In addition to the staffing that was just changed for town meeting.
I would believe it probably is, yes.
Can someone get clarification? I mean, they told us they told the selectmen and FinCom that they needed some staff to assist in the COVID-19 relief in the classrooms, and the town's giving it, and now we may be hearing that they're getting even more from the staffing from on a grant.
Well, I don't want to speak for the schools. I think the superintendent should do that. But what I will say is my understanding is from my discussions with them is that all the federal monies need to be utilized by December 30th. I believe the funds they were talking about as needing additional funds were to cover the school year post December 30th. again, I don't want to, I think it's best to defer the minutia surrounding this to the school officials, but that's my understanding.
Yeah,
My recollection on it was that the stuff going on later, that there's teaching assistants, they call them aides, or some type of teaching aid that's needed in the classroom to get the ratio smaller, and that was ongoing through the school year. I didn't know this grant expired on December. You say December 1st or December 31st?
December 30th. I believe that these federal grants in the CARES Act, as of right now, the rules as set by Congress require that the funds be utilized for purposes by December 30th. So any staffing costs after December 30th, as of right now, unless those rules are changed, would not be eligible under the CARES Act.
yeah. Carol had forwarded me Nancy's memo regarding their application for that. So it looks like it's all for sort of capital spending on reopening projects for things like air purifiers, hand sanitizers, ionizers, and then some, there's some more direct school related stuff like for Zoom. The only one that I see that I'm not certain about how it translates is the 60,000 for short-term substitutes. So I don't know if that means it's like temp for during the opening period, but you're right, Mike, it has to be spent by December 31st.
And that's the problem, is they have COVID related needs that will go beyond December 30th. And I think that's what they're trying to anticipate for.
Lastly, Madam Chair, I mean, I'm really confused that certain members of the committee are getting direct information from a superintendent. And am I the only one that's not getting whatever Mr. Riley just talked about? I mean, it's only fair that everybody get the information.
Yeah.
I just wonder if someone could request from anybody on the school committee or the superintendent that when a question is asked of a board or committee member, that the response be given to the chair so that the chair can distribute it. Thank you.
That's a reasonable point. I had just asked Carol for more detail on that, and she.
Well,
ultimately
Miss
ended up
Carroll
getting
should be
it.
sending this stuff to everybody. We all have, Doug, you make great points and great questions, and Pete does, and Craig does, and everybody on the committee does. Do I have to re-ask the question so that I also get a document in return? I mean, I'm not being pissy about this or anything, but I'm looking at a motion list here. I'm not looking at anything that the school or the town has received. And no, Mr. Kaczynski, I didn't get anything in May telling me, because I have full folders on this telling us what the grant application was for. So whatever's been going on, can someone just put me in the loop? I don't know if other people want, Mr. Berube, maybe you got the information and I didn't. And of course, did our chair get this? I mean, I don't want to have a debate here or anything. I'd like to just leave it that whatever people are talking about tonight, if I could have the courtesy of getting a copy of the documents, thank you very much.
Well, certainly what we could do is if there are any requests from members of the Finance Committee for information, we can certainly copy the chair and Deirdre on those.
Of course.
So they can forward those out as appropriate. So we can do that. We don't want to bear anyone with information, but we can certainly, if that's something that the Finance Committee would like, we can certainly do that.
I think that makes the most sense.
Is a motion needed, Madam Chair, for this?
I
don't
don't believe so.
I don't think so. We can
Madam-
simply do it.
Madam
If there's a
Chair.
request.
Yes, Pete.
The only thing I'll add, just to, kind of in a response to Kathy, is that the only thing that I asked for was some backup data on the tree spending over the last 5 to 10 years. I sent that to Carol and to Mike, I believe, and I think the answer got disseminated to everybody
It
in
did.
terms of what Doug is looking at. I don't think I'm privy to that. I did get a copy of the the CARE grant request for the 729. I
Yeah.
think everybody got that one. But in terms of the school funding, the school grant that was earlier, not sure if I got it or not, frankly. I could have got it and missed it, you know.
Well, that's kind of my assumption with things that I'm missing, that but you know, where other folks are asking for this information, I think it makes sense that our policy should be where a member of the finance committee is asking for more information, if that information can just be copied to me and Deirdre or whoever the chair is.
Yeah, we can absolutely do that, and we'll continue to do that for all finance committee requests, unless and until we hear differently. So
I
we
think
will.
that makes sense. Yeah,
Very good.
thank you. All right. So back to the changes that are in the warrant. Any other changes?
I believe that's all the changes I'm aware of. Obviously, there was numbering changes because Article 7 was removed. So we have a total of 9 articles now in the warrant. The warrant has been approved and signed by the select board, and I believe it's going to be posted by the constable tomorrow. And we had a town meeting planning meeting this afternoon with certain town safety officials, as well as officials from the town clerk's office, in preparation for the town meeting on November 7th. So those preparations are going along well.
Are we planning any additional notification beyond the typical card and, warrant booklet that gets mailed out?
Yeah, I mean, we will. Well, yeah, we'll do both of those, but we're also going to, post a number of reminders on the town's Facebook page leading up to the town meeting, and obviously we'll have links on the homepage of the town's website so that people can access the information. We're also going to have some posted signs in the town hall so that when people come to vote on November 3rd, for those that vote in person, they'll see those signs as well. So,
What about like a reverse 911? They've used that for other things in the past.
yeah, we'll look at that. We may do that the week before.
Yeah, not now, it's too soon, but yeah.
Yeah,
I think once the booklets go out.
Usually they say like 2 to 5 days ahead of the event. Anything longer than that, it's a waste.
Night before. Yeah, like exactly. That Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, sometime in there would make sense. And then first off, I'm hoping for good weather. Secondly, I'm hoping it moves quickly. With 9 articles, it should. But thirdly, I'm hoping we have a fair and representative turnout.
And my biggest concern is the weather, but we don't have
mine
to
too.
deal with that, and we'll just have to see how Mother Nature treats us.
Exactly. Because a day like today, it'll be gorgeous.
Yeah.
All right. Any other items that we need to know before we start going through the article review?
I'm not aware of anything else. Carol, do you have anything else?
No, I'm all set.
I think
Okay.
we're good.
All right. I don't know if you have time to hang out while we go through a couple of these items, just in case we have a few questions on the early ones. The later ones aren't necessarily finance related.
I will certainly stay here through your entire warrant review anyway. So.
Till the
Okay.
bitter end.
All right. Thank you. I think it's just more efficient. All right. So we've lost what was previously Article 7, which Sean had that article. And earlier today, Joyce let me know that she cannot present Article 10. So Sean, I wasn't sure if you would be able to take over that article. Most of the write-ups have already been done by Mrs. Riley. So I just wanted to know, not to put you on the spot, but I was hoping you might be able to take that one up.
Absolutely, no problem.
All right, thank you. It's not a whole lot of writing for you to do. It's a lot of cut and paste.
Even better.
Exactly. And any questions can just go to that board. All right, so for Article 1, I'm looking for a recommendation for the unpaid bills.
Madam Chairman, I'll move, I move that we recommend approval of Article 1 for unpaid of, God, there's a lot of them, $17,246.48.
Second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to recommend approval of Article 1 in the amount of $17,246.48 for the bills as listed on the warrant, with $16,431.66 from the general fund, $214.31 from sewer enterprise, and $600.51 from water enterprise. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Look at you with the emoticon there, Kathy. I see.
I
that.
almost gave you a heart.
No. Thank you. All right.
You really like those unpaid bills, huh?
Yeah.
As long as they're coming out of last year's money.
Yeah.
All right. We're looking for a recommendation on Article 2.
I'll move we recommend approval of Article 2 as written with the new totals in the total FY21 budget adjustment column being $386,187.32, with funding from taxation, $386,188, marijuana impact fees, $95,940, revolving fund of $85,000 for a total of $567,128.
Second.
And the items down below, yeah. Realized it didn't total as I was reading through it.
Yeah, I know. I was kind
And
of
then you've got
thinking
the-
how that would be
the items down
presented.
below. I think it's just going to be reading the thing when it's presented.
It's been moved and seconded to recommend approval of Article 2 in the amount of $567,128, with $386,187.32 from the general fund, $95,940 from marijuana impact fees, and $85,000 from the ambulance revolving fund. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed or abstaining? All right, motion carries. Article 3.
Madam Chair, I move that we vote to approve the purchase or the expenditure of $328,714 for the 6 projects listed, and those would come from $97,477 from free cash, $71,168 from water enterprise reserves, and $132,922 from sewer enterprise, and $27,147 from stormwater enterprise.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to recommend approval of Article 3 in the amount of $328,714 as described from the different funds. I'm not going to go through that again. Further discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, abstaining? All right, motion carries. Article 4.
I'll move that we recommend approval of Article 4, lease of the payment of the first year of the police cruiser lease for $18,000 from free cash.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to recommend approval of Article 4 in the amount of $18,000 from free cash for the first payment of a 3-year lease for a police cruiser. Further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstaining? Motion carries. Article 5.
I don't see an amount in this on the article, on the warrant list I'm looking at, unless I'm in the wrong part. I'm just looking at I was looking at the warrant book. So maybe.
The amounts are in the motion.
Okay, I gotta go to the motion page. Somebody else. The other ones I could fake my way through off the motion book, off the warrant.
Yeah,
This
I
language-
flipped over to the
language-
motions.
This language, the language for the warrant is as prescribed by bond counsel. So
Yeah,
it's written in the way it is.
there we go. Found the attachment. I'll move that we recommend approval of Article, just scrolling to it now. Article
5.
5, thank you. Article 5 with, for $600,000 with $200,000 from the Water Reserve Fund, 200 from the Sewer Enterprise Fund, 100 from Stormwater Enterprise Fund, and $100,000 from General Fund.
Second.
How will we be doing that? Will we be doing that through free cash, not free cash, we'll be doing it through
Borrowing.
borrowing?
100,000 through borrowing.
Okay,
Yes. General.
100,000 through short-term through borrowing. Don't call it short-term yet.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to recommend approval of Article 5 in the amount of $600,000 from the various sources as just described. Discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes,
Kathy
Kathy.
McGinnis. I'd just like to note that I will be opposing this motion and not opposing the need for the garage, which I think my first sentence when I was on the Board of Selectmen was to work on this, but I'm opposing the distribution of the, especially the water and sewer and stormwater funds for this project, just to let you know. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Kathy I was going to ask about the 100,000 from the stormwater fund because I thought somebody brought up a point regarding that and I don't remember exactly what it was. It might have been you,
No,
Who's
I
this
missed
talking?
Doug.
Oh, Doug. Hey, sorry, Doug. I just have the motions on the screen here. No, I believe Craig
Yeah,
talked about that because when this was done a few years ago, the Stormwater Enterprise Fund wasn't included in the original funding. I'm just concerned that once again, it's and I just want to make mention too that the police department uses this garage also. So I'm wondering if that portion is also included when the calculating. I could go on and on about this, folks. You know how I feel about it. And we're starting with the enterprise funds tomorrow, a meeting. And hopefully this will be the, if I have anything to do with it, it's going to be a lot more equitable in the future. But
I think, Doug, I brought it up last week and I was just not thrilled seeing stormwater in there either. At this point, I voiced it, this is what the selectmen have put together. I don't know if we can change what's in there or not, but
And
completely with the project though.
is your objection sort of the same as Kathy's that it wasn't included in the original article for the construction, but now we're adding it in as part of the additional?
Not to speak too much for Kathy, but I'll speak for mine in particular. We always did have water and sewer in the original one, whether it's equitable or not, that was always part of the original plan.
Yep.
Stormwater just popped in at this moment as a new revenue source. And that's my disagreement with including it. It just came in as a new one instead of doing 250 and 250 and 100 or
2, 2, and 2.
Madam Chair.
2 and 2. It's a way to make a new bucket for it.
All right. Yes, Pete.
I wonder if you would, or if I could ask Craig, but essentially, wasn't the enterprise, the stormwater enterprise new after or right about the same time as the project was, voted and the borrowing done?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, Mr. Kaczynski.
And that's an excellent point that was made in regards to that, is that the stormwater enterprise was new. And I think at the time during the discussion, it was felt that enterprise being so new, it wouldn't be really practical to ask a large investment from that enterprise, even though they will have a fairly large part of the operations at that center. So at the time it was left alone, but since that enterprise has built up some reserve, it was considered that at least some contribution from that enterprise would be appropriate. And I would say, and I understand it's certainly a worthy policy discussion on which areas should fund the project. But I will say that overall, even with these funds, the general fund is paying more than any other individual component towards the project, although only about an additional $40,000. But it is mostly made up of general fund, water enterprise, and sewer enterprise.
Madam Chair, let me just say, it doesn't show that by the calculations here. And the original funding on this article a few years ago, the article specifically stated 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. And if we're going to, and I personally have no issue with the stormwater enterprise because, like you said, Mike, there was no money and no one wanted to start charging money against a policy that was to kind of split the town. And but they're out there now doing the work, so that makes perfect sense. Again, you know, we don't have to keep milking this, but the general fund is I don't know if it has to do with borrowing and limitations on borrowing by a town or anything. I have no idea. I'm not that deep into this yet, but clearly it's taking advantage of the water and sewer money that has astronomical reserves in it that equal cash reserves that the town has, as you can see. So I just hope you get a 2/3 vote, because I'm not out there speaking against it, but there are a lot of water and sewer people that have been around here for 30, 40 years that are, you know, hearing this meeting and the last several meetings, that they're starting to take a look at everything. And I just, 2/3 is a lot. And I just wished, I don't remember the selectmen actually voting on this. I must have missed that meeting, the divisions. But I just wish they had allowed the town to absorb a lot more. And I know that the DPW has had workers working there and everything, but the school hasn't kicked in any on this, and they're going to have an office there. I mean, it sounds like I'm just nickel and diming, but the water and sewer has been nickel and dime for years. And Miss Carol, I'm still waiting for the reserve amount while I have you on the phone. Not to digress into anything, Madam Chair, but I had asked the question once again. So
Which
I'm
reserve
going to
amount
stop
are you asking
talking
about,
on
Deb?
this.
I
The
think
water
that
and
was
sewer
sent out on-
reserves.
that was
Yeah.
sent out on an earlier email, I believe, in a packet of materials.
It's
Yeah.
in this, it's in the information. When free cash gets certified on that notification that everybody received, right underneath it. So it's free cash for the general fund, and then it's for sewer and enterprise funds, what their retained earnings are.
Those are the total amounts, not just for this year, but that's the total.
No, I had asked for what the water
Total.
and sewer people are
So
paying
everybody-
for the reserves for the last,
Oh, that
since the
is-
start of it. It's there, team. Okay. It has nothing to do with this article, Madam Chair. So I'll look more, you know, I have to get thicker glasses probably.
I know it can get overwhelming as we, you know,
Especially
put
when
all
it's
of
what
these
I'm looking
together.
for. Thanks,
It's
Miss
actually-
Carol.
It's actually in the meeting packet at the, following all of this. It's the Charles River Pollution Control District assessment for FY21. Jim provided it, and it is on the meeting materials.
Right.
It's further
Okay.
down.
I'm sorry, I stopped after the warrant. I didn't know there was anything after that. I
Okay,
apologize.
okay.
Well,
Okay.
I personally have to say that I'm thrilled to once again be presenting one of the more contentious articles. I seem to be drawing that straw frequently, although I guess in this case I volunteered.
I offered you and you offered, yeah, so yeah.
You're just drawn to drama. That's all.
Well, you know, it is what it is. Somebody's got
Yeah.
to do it.
Well, you're kind of like the warrant whisperer. I mean,
Yeah.
people just are calmed by you, Doug, and
Someone's got to take it.
I thought maybe if I just yelled really loud, then everyone would just go, yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Use coach voice. You know.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I just
Sean.
had a quick question. When we have a warrant like this that takes appropriations from multiple funds, if there are funds that are left unspent, how do those get reverted back? Is it just back into free cash? Or if we have those instances where we vote on kind of de-obligating these types of warrants?
Yeah, maybe
Question.
Mike, you could answer that.
Yeah, that actually is an excellent question. So we do expect there to be funds left over. I think as the chair of the Permanent Building Committee stated at a previous meeting, he has high hopes that the majority of this extra 600,000 won't be needed. However, in order to sign the contract, we need it. But we're planning not to spend it unless the contingencies are fully needed. I'd have to check with Carol on that again. Certainly, I would say, since this is an article, it sits there in the article until the town decides to do something with it. So if the project is complete and say there's $600,000 left in the project, we'd simply go back to a town meeting and put those funds back in those accounts. And if we didn't borrow the 100,000 for the general fund, then there really wouldn't be anything there to do there except vote to negate that borrowing authorization. And then those other amounts would simply be transferred back into those accounts. So it would just wait till a future town meeting action to do that.
Thank you.
Further questions on Article 5? All right, so the motion as forwarded and seconded is to approve Article 5 in the amount of 600,000 according to the from the different funds as described in the motion list. All those in favor, please say or indicate aye.
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 Any opposed?
Opposed, Kathy McInnes.
Any abstaining? All right, so it carries with a majority. Thank you. And thank you for
Madam
bringing up
Chair.
those matters, Kathy. I do appreciate it. Yes, Pete.
Just to clarify, do we have to have majority or 2/3 vote? I mean, I think you have both, but you said majority.
No, just for our recommendation, it's a majority, but
Okay,
at town
okay.
meeting, they need 2/3.
Right. Thank you.
Yep. Article 6.
Article 6, I'll move that we recommend approval of 275,000 payment for the first year of a 2-year lease for temporary space for the DPW in the event that Article 5 should fail. If Article 5 passes, then I move dismissal on this. Can I make it contingent? Or do we have to take a quick vote? How does that, we've had this discussion before. How do we recommend this?
Well, that was actually going to be my question, because it wasn't totally clear to me when we first approved this. It was contingent,
Right.
and so we did dismiss it because the way that it was arranged originally, if the motion passed, then we weren't going to need this. Now it sounds like we do if this passes, or did I completely miss that?
If we only need this if Article 5 should fail.
That's
Should
right.
fail.
But
Good
shouldn't we be talking about our recommendation? I mean, if we're recommending Article 5, then we should vote to not recommend Article 6.
Well, I would agree with Craig that would probably change if Article 5. I mean, I think you probably would need to put some sort of disclaimer in there that you recommend against Article 6 unless Article 5 fails to pass.
I'm going to take another stab at it. I move that we recommend Article 6 in the eventuality that Article 5 should fail for the amount of $275,000, split 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3 between water, sewer. I'm sorry, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4 between water, sewer, taxation, and stormwater. Should Article 5 pass, I recommend dismissal. I move that we dismiss Article 6.
Second.
All right, it has been moved to recommend
Do our best.
approval of Article 6 in the amount of 275,000, split 4 ways as described in the motion. Should Article 5 fail to pass, if Article 5 is approved at town meeting, then Finance Committee recommends dismissal of Article 6. Further discussion. All right, all those in favor of that complicated motion, please say aye or indicate
Aye.
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 Any against or abstaining? All right, that motion carries.
We could just adjourn for 30 seconds, do a quick vote and move on. It's town meeting. Huddle together, but no, I think we got it the way it is, but the other option was just
Make recommendation at town
Abstain.
meeting.
yeah. But
Well,
I think it's better to put it in there.
if someone determines that that's how we have to vote, we can always reopen our recommendation.
I think that gives a recommendation in the warrant, which I think is important, and especially if it's couched with the caveats, if
Yeah.
5 fails, this has to pass.
Well, I can mention it
Yeah.
in the short write-up.
Yep.
Yep.
We hope that this doesn't have to be recommended, but
Yes. All right, Article 7.
I'll move that we appropriate $40,000 from taxation for tree trimming and removal.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to recommend approval of Article 7 in the amount of $40,000 for tree trimming and removal. Further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed or abstaining? Motion carries. Article 8.
I move that we recommend recommend approval of a change in the general bylaws, moving the town meeting to the first Monday of May and the election to the second Monday of May.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to recommend approval of Article 8 to change the timing of town meeting and the town voting. Further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstaining? All right, motion carries. And Article 9.
I move that the town vote to amend the zoning bylaw as described in sections 1, 2, 3, and 4 below. Done.
Second.
Reading every line of it.
It has been moved and seconded to recommend approval of Article 9 to amend the town's zoning bylaws as described in the warrant.
Yeah.
Further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstaining? All right, motion carries. Any questions, Deirdre?
No,
Okay, just wanted to make sure before we close out that section. All right. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Mike and Carol, for being here and being willing to be a resource for us as we go through this. It's been really helpful and very efficient that we don't have a lot of outstanding questions. So thank you so much for your time with us.
Great, thank you.
Thanks. So with that, I don't think we have any other questions on the warrant, but I will just, or town meeting. But before I close out that section, I'll just pause for a sec. All right, so the next item on our agenda is to review the minutes of our last meeting of October 14th.
actually, Jody, I do have a question. Will the finance committee be meeting prior to town meeting,
To the pre-town meeting or before town meeting?
before town meeting?
Yes. So we will meet a half an hour before town meeting. I have asked for a designated place for us to do that. So it will be outdoors. You know, I asked that we have just tell us where to go outdoors, you know, so we have a muster location.
Jody, why, if I may,
Mhm.
why can't we meet indoors?
It just requires the school and custodial staff to ready a location for us. And so I just requested that just give us a location outdoors, give us a few minutes to go through whatever we need to go through.
Well,
so
the
that-
bandstand at least is covered.
Well, even if it was just, you know, by a just a location.
Cool.
What if we were just
In
to
our cars.
stand in the lobby? I mean, stand in the lobby or stand inside the gym
You agree with
entrance.
the motion? Sorry.
I'm,
I'm just putting it out there. I see no reason why we can't be inside with masks on, keeping 8 feet apart. And I mean, it's already going to be pretty awkward to begin with, to be having this outdoors. We're going to be there an hour early.
oh, I just recommended a half hour early.
Oh, okay, a half hour early and then a half hour late. And anyway, that's my
Okay.
2 cents.
All right. Thanks. I just kind of used to doing stuff outdoors at this point. So I had just, I don't know, it seemed like it was more of an ask for an indoor space than it was for just an outdoor location. But that is something that I can work with Mike and the school on, just telling us where we could go.
I'm all set outside. I don't want to, get everybody all, all busy and everything about this. But Pete makes sense also.
Yes. Yeah, I know. I think it'll just come down to something that what we can make work.
Not that he doesn't always, but
All right.
What's while we're on it, I'm sorry to belabor this. What's the inclement weather plan for town meeting? I haven't heard that.
don't ask.
Yeah, I believe postponement, rain date.
I thought it was Sunday, but I wasn't sure. I thought it was just automatic postponement.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't, that may not be the fact. I thought that's what I heard though.
I don't believe I know.
What's the, Mike just stepped in my office. The,
Contingency plan.
yeah,
Ah,
plan,
Sunday.
Sunday,
Sunday.
Pay attention.
next weekend. Or just bring your shovel and boots.
And
Yeah.
then,
Thank you.
As long as we don't get another tornado.
Oh, good.
Please,
we'll be in a warehouse somewhere.
if it,
Well, it'll be the next day. It'll be Sunday. And then if the whole weekend was either washed out or we had a blast of Arctic air, we would try for the next weekend, the next Saturday or Sunday. If that looks bad, then we'll have to come up with a plan B, because by then it will be getting very cold. So.
Yeah.
But we're hoping that one of those scenarios will work out for us.
Okay, thank you. And as we see on our agenda, the write-ups on the articles are due to Deirdre on Monday morning, the 26th. At this point, I'm not sure that we need an October 28th meeting. Deirdre, do we have anything that we've put off that would need to go to that meeting night?
The only thing is the Oak Grove Farm request for a reserve fund transfer, I believe. So because the pre-town meeting was, advertised at 7 o'clock on November 4th, they could present and after that, which I kind of feel bad about for Nate, but I don't think there's I don't think we could put them before if it's a public hearing scheduled for 7. So it's entirely up to you if on that date we can have the Oak Grove Farm Commission come in
Yeah, I
as
would,
opposed to meeting next week.
Okay,
yeah, I would request if possible to have that reserve fund transfer request for your next meeting. If that's November 4th, and that's the date, I would request that you have that on the agenda.
Right, that's what I thought.
okay. Or we could do a very brief meeting next Wednesday. You know, even if it's just 7 to 7:30, and just have the reserve fund transfer. If, Mike, you think that the request will be set by then, if the quotes will be in.
Yeah, I can certainly let you know by Monday morning if they'll be ready by Wednesday evening to present. We'll have the quotes. If we don't know by then I would just say they'll wait till the 4th.
Okay, so Deirdre, why don't we post a 28th meeting, and if, and we'll put Nate on the agenda, and if we don't have him, then we will cancel the meeting and put him on the agenda for November 4th.
Sounds good.
Okay. And all right, shall we turn to the minutes of our last meeting, which was the tri-board meeting?
I move we approve the minutes as written.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of our October 14th tri-board meeting as written. Further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstaining?
Standing.
Oh, yes, Pete. Okay, motion carries. And any further business that we have to discuss, or are we good to adjourn? All right, hearing none, I'll take a motion.
Move we adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone. And
Thanks, Jody.
we may meet next week, and if we're not ready with that reserve fund transfer, then we will push that off to pre-town meeting on November 4th. All right. Thank
Sounds
you.
good. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Carol.